one of the things that you are known for, and I know a lot of people look to you for, is this idea of a decision-making framework. And I'm very interested why you focus on decision-making. You talk a lot about a decision-making template and that people need to, kind of be much more thoughtful in making decisions. Can you kind of unpack why the focus on decisions and what your template enables?
Yeah, so we are in so many ways the product of our decisions, right? You start in life and you're born into a circumstance that you have no control over. You have parents you have no control over. You have a country that you have no control over. So you're put on this trajectory in life and it is entirely luck. And for most of us at some point, that luck becomes less over time, right? And we take control of our own lives. We become an adult. And at that point, we're responsible for our own decisions. And those decisions that we make, and luck factors in, so don't get me wrong, but those decisions will largely dictate our trajectory going forward. So somebody with less luck can actually sort of, if you think about a graph, overcome somebody with more luck based on the decisions that they make. If they're better at making decisions, the slope goes up, they go faster, better results. And I think that it's really important to study how we make decisions, but there's no class in school called how to make decisions. And there can't be because it's really all these interconnected disciplines. But we have a class called reading, but there is no one skill that is reading, right? You learn to recognize letters, you learn to put letters into words, words into sentences, sentences into paragraphs. And so you have all these different skills that combine into the skill of reading. So with decision making, we look at it as there's repeatable behaviors that go into making good decisions. And then there's a reflection aspect, which is what you hit on when you talked about sort of our decision journal, which if you go to fs.blog/DJ, you can pull it up. We have a template online. But really, all we're trying to encourage there, going back to learning again, is active reflection with your decisions. So often we make decisions, but we don't get better. We have experience, but we're not learning. And we all know somebody at work who's had 20 years of experience and hasn't, they've really repeated the same year of experience 20 years in a row. But so often we do that with decisions because who gives us feedback on decisions? Well, it's really hard to get feedback from your boss. It's really hard to give yourself feedback because you have all of these sort of you do have hindsight bias and you have ego protection and you have all this other stuff going on. And so it's really hard to give yourself feedback after the fact, which is what is my contribution to where we're at? And so the idea behind this decision journal is before you make a decision, you can write down certain things that'll help you look back in the future, not only help you look back, but it'll help you understand what you don't understand about the decision you're about to make. And so we recommend that people sort of write out the situation or context that they're operating in, sort of the problem statement that they're trying to solve, and then identify the variables that they think are going to govern the situation and how those variables will interact over time as you go forward. And then you sort of identify the complexity that you see. You talk about the alternatives that you're seriously considering. And then we recommend a paragraph explaining the range of outcomes. And that's really important because I'll come back to why that's important afterwards. But the entire range, here's the lower bound, here's the higher bound. And so you're coming up with a probability distribution, and you think that that's going to be governed by the variables that you're identifying. And then you explain what you expect to happen and why. And then I would advocate the time of day, how you're feeling mentally, even as much as what you've eaten. And then you haven't technically at this point communicated that decision to other people. You've just written it down, and that'll often just prompt you for, I don't really understand this, or I want more information here. So before you've made the decision, now you have a sort of check. But in reality, also 6 months later, you can go back and look, what did I know at the time I made the decision? And if you do this in your own handwriting, it really works wonders, because then you can't convince yourself that somebody else typed that, or that wasn't really you. And so you're looking at it, and now you get the feedback, right? So how do you calibrate your ability to make decisions? You need feedback on that. And by keeping a decision journal, you can calibrate your decisions and get accurate feedback on how you're doing. And the reason that I mentioned the range of outcomes and identifying the variables, and those are really hard things because they put you in a situation where you can be wrong. And so often we're right. We get the right outcome with our decisions, but we get it for the wrong reason. And as an
Mm.
individual, that's really important to identify if you want to continue learning. Why did I get that wrong? Maybe I don't know as much. Maybe this isn't in my circle of competence like I thought it was. Maybe the range of outcomes that I thought was possible wasn't wide enough, and other things happened. And I think that comes with a whole host of other issues, right? Most people stop doing a decision journal when they realize they consistently get the right outcome for the wrong reasons, and they're lucky.
Mm.
And that's a really hard place to be, but that's where learning begins, right?